I'm okay.
Do you have one of those little UV lamps?
No, in fact, I was talking to a friend the other day, and those special lamps and lights that you get if you feel this seasonal kind of down
Yeah.
come. And I think it's called, is it seasonally affected disorder,
Ah,
which is SAD, which is sad.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
so yeah. So yeah.
That's a funny name.
So I thought that was quite an appropriate term for those
Yeah.
for that condition. But no, you know what? I must say though, after being in the sunshine for 2 years,
Mm.
coming back here, I really do miss the sunshine.
Yeah.
I
Mm.
miss the light and being able to just go out with a t-shirt and a pair of shorts. It makes life, very simple.
Yeah. So you're able to do that now?
Well, not here, no. When I
Oh,
was
okay.
in Bali,
Oh, Bali. Okay.
yeah. When I was in Bali, we'll go out in shorts and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think, yeah, if I went out in a shorts and a t-shirt now, I wouldn't last very long.
Yeah. Yeah. We have there's a certain things that we have to do to stay warm. I like thermals, so I'm always wearing layers. My theory is if you keep if I thermals are like the clothing that you wear under your clothes. So like if I wear thermal pants, so I always like in the winter times I have my jeans or whatever I'm wearing. Then I put the thermals underneath. And my theory is if you keep the legs warm, then everything else will be pretty good. I just don't like having cold legs. Like having the jeans and then going out here in the winter in New York, it could get very cold.
I was in New York a couple of years ago, and it was the coldest I have ever been.
Oh wow!
Oh my God! It was, that cold where you feel like you have velociraptors attacking you.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was. It was that cold, where and your voice is shaking. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like that. It's funny because sometimes it won't. It's the body that period of time that the body's getting adjusted to the cold that is the most difficult for me. Like sometimes it could be if it goes from like the 60s to the 40s, it's not really that cold, but the body's like, oh my gosh, it's takes some adjustment for the body to come to adjust, and that can our topic today is still moving, and one of the things that I think you had mentioned in terms of this topic is how we are kind of out of tune with nature and the natural cycles of things, especially in the holiday season. So why don't you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah. So it seems to be in the northern hemisphere at this time of year. A lot of animals and trees go into kind of a hibernation. So trees lose their leaves. A lot of animals are in hibernation. They sleep a lot longer.
Yeah.
We get a lot less sunlight, and everything seems to just slow down. Your body's recuperating. But it seems that in this time of the year, humans operate, especially in the northern hemisphere, in a completely different way, whereas it's the busiest time for many people. We have these flashing lights that are around. People are speeding up and worrying and stressful at this time of year. And it seems to be that maybe nature is telling us to slow down. It's a time to replenish, take it easy, maybe a time for reflection. Maybe it's time to turn down the lights rather than have them on at 100%. Turn them down. There's more of a tranquil, easy way of being, just like sunlight is at the moment.
Yeah.
And we're going against our natural way of being. And having holidays at these times, maybe it's a possibility to have these earth things, a time to relax, a time to sit down, a time to just be with yourself, rather than what's promoted out there all the time in the media. You've got to do this, you've got to get this, eat this, buy this. And then also, it's a time where a lot of people eat more than they usually eat, which again, it seems to be in reverse of what nature's telling us.
Yeah.
Maybe to eat less, and because our stomachs are always working, digesting food. So it's time to give our stomachs a break.
Yeah.
It'll be a good opportunity at this time of the year to be in sync with the bodies, and possibly it's a time for fasting. Allowing the body just to rest for once, allowing the stomach to rest rather than what it's been doing every day, all night for the whole year, which is continually working.
Yeah.
Maybe get out those books that we want to read and haven't read. Those books on our bookshelves. Sit in the silence, in the darkness. A time to reflect. Look back on what's been and look forward to what can possibly be, but maybe even more important than that, just be here and now in the present.
Yeah.
But it seems that we're conditioned and trained and through media to do exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
So can we switch off these the televisions and these media devices just for a short while? There's a have you heard of Enyepi?
What is it called?
Enyepi.
No.
It's a time in Bali when they turn off all the electricity.
Oh,
so there's
wow.
nothing on. No one uses, their kettles, their TVs, their phones. Everything's turned off.
Yeah.
And there's a great story to it. So if anybody's out there, if you know their story, can you please message in? But it's a really great story. But basically, I think it's about allowing the earth to rest. And so I was in Bali in Yepi 2019, and what was really amazing is that because all the lights are off, and you go outside in the evening, there's no light pollution. So the stars in the sky are so amazing. And living in, as you do in New York, and I'm in London, it's so rare that we see the sky.
Yeah.
Much of it is covered by artificial light and so much pollution. And I think that maybe Enyepe will be a perfect thing to bring, worldwide.
Yeah, as you're talking here, my studio's falling apart. I'm just trying to...
Maybe it's time for the studio to have a rest as well.
Wait 1 second. Well, I had dropped. I dropped one of my lights today.
Oh, is that an omen?
Yeah, so I dropped one of my lights today. So Uh, okay. Well, we'll do without it.
That reminds me of a was it? I think is it in The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho, when he says, "If something happens once, it would never happen again. If something happens twice, it's sure to happen a third time."
Ah. Yeah, yeah. It's a great book. So yeah, the lights were actually for the flowers. I have a separate light just for the flowers.
Well, you need to get some photographs of somebody at the back there as well.
Yeah, yeah. So where were we? We were talking about the Bali, and yeah, if and the importance of being in rhythm with nature and taking time out to be with ourselves, be present, which I have to admit, I haven't been doing that so much. You know, I have this little device here, the iPhone, which is, and always checking the iPhone, always active for a lot of the time. I mean, not always, but when I do get those brief moments of, just the other day, I was standing in the kitchen, and I just noticed the kitchen, you know, um, in a different way. It wasn't like I've been so on automatic lately that I have such a routine. I get up in the morning, you know, I do my meditation. Sometimes I do yoga as well. Then I go into making my coffee and breakfast, and I do everything in the same order. I take, I put the dishes away from the dish thing. I put them in the cabinets. I take I do fancy coffee, so I take my Chemex out, and then I put one thing on, you know, a little bowl on one side, a big bowl for my oatmeal on the other side, and I do everything in the same order. So it's like there's no thought really involved in it. And once in a while, because of that, because it's so routine, I sometimes will mistakenly like pour the water in the wrong thing, you know, because it's like a robot that's in a program, but there's like some little thing gets off and the robot like is messed up. The robot only knows to do a certain, you know, thing. So um forget what I was getting at, but yeah, stepping out of that that sort of routine, you know, response of doing things and being in the moment. Like my kids are in the moment. My daughter's always doing her own thing, just being creative, and while I'm like, no, we have to do this and this and this and this, and yeah, I think bringing up the holidays like Christmas, and so there is this same sort of way of thinking. We have to. It's like you wind up the robots, and you know, and I don't exclude myself from this. You know, you wind us up, and then when it's time to go, you know, we go tick 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 tick. You know, the robot may hit the wall. You keep hitting the wall until you turn it, and then the robot tick 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 tick. So. So with all that's going on, a pandemic and, you know, everything else, where supposedly we should be taking it easy, taking care of ourselves, and that's what they blast all over the media. Well, they don't really talk about taking care of yourself. They just have really one narrative. And our leader here in the West is a guy by the name of Anthony Fauci, who is leading, the medical leader in this, and so he was, been talking about how bad COVID is, and the pandemic, and you got to get, your vaccines, boosters, and stay away from people, wear your mask, except when it comes to Christmas. He was up there, and he gave this speech. Well, they asked, how about visiting relatives and doing having gatherings during Christmas indoors and everything? And he said, well, it should be fine, as long as you visit your relatives, you wear your mask. Obviously, when you're visiting your relatives, you're not going to be wearing your mask, eating food. So it's, I mean, unless you can eat it through the mask. So a big contradiction, and we can't help by either in some indirect way the narrative. Not that anyone said help to instill some confidence to get people out there shopping and celebrating Christmas. They probably didn't put it in those words, but there's a certain, and we talked about this the other day, there's a certain narrative that we have all been sort of indoctrinated into, and we kind of just go with the herd, and that kind of sounds like a negative way, and I just can't think of another word, and I'm not meaning it in a negative way. I'm just meaning it to say we go with the group of sheep. That and that sounds negative too. The sheep that are being led off of the ledge to their death, and that, and I don't mean, I mean, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but I'm going to try to reverse my way out of this now. But what I'm saying is there is this contradiction in the messaging that I'm catching, and I don't think that it's directly that he's told that you should give this narrative, but I think it's ingrained. Like, yes, we need to be safe at all costs. We need to take care of those that are vulnerable, except for during holiday seasons. And I can't help to think it's because of the impact that it would have on the economy and things of this nature. And I would love to think that the government has our best interests in mind and the health of people. But it seems that the economy and winning re-election and things of that, in some way, maybe they're not conscious of it, but it seems like, I mean, obviously advertisers and corporations are most definitely conscious of money being the, yeah. So, yeah. So I guess it's the thing of sins of omission or commission.
I remember being in a business school and doing marketing and advertising.
Yeah.
Which was a whole year really of being taught how to lie. How to extract, how the best way to extract money from someone's hands, and that was very interesting because you get to look behind the scenes of the pull that these businesses and advertising have on you, how they can implant thoughts in your mind to make you think that they're your thoughts. Do you remember that? I think they did it in cinemas many years ago, and they called it subliminal advertising, which they used to put into films.
Yeah.
Which they'll put in and then you would think that you had the idea that you would like to go and get a drink,
Mm.
when it was the subliminal advertising that your conscious mind's not aware of, which was implanted in to put into your mind. Then you'll go out and get a drink.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched this film once, and one of the characters said that she left the main town for a while to go out to the country.
Mm.
And while she was out there, she felt so different. And she said it was because there was no advertising, no TV around her. And I don't think we realized the effect that every day, especially you in New York and myself in London, we're walking down the streets and we're bombarded by images and messages.
Yeah.
Constant. And it goes on 24 hours a day. So wherever you're watching, and it's also in the bombardment, and we don't even recognize this, in the labeling, in the clothes that we wear, and on the billboards.
Yeah.
And on the social media where you get this advertisement, and it's constant.
Mm.
And if you think about it, this has just been something recent in the last maybe 40, 50 years that we've had this. And it's been taken up like 50 notches because of social media.
Yeah.
But what effect is all this having on our psyche? Being bombarded constantly. And I think, and especially in these times, it's a time to maybe get away from this.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an opportune time for us to turn it off and ask the question, what is the effect that all these, because we don't ask for it. We don't say, excuse me, can you put a billboard up there trying to sell me something? They never ask.
Yeah.
They never ask, can we press you into giving you this message on your phone? So we never asked. So it's just given to us. And to look at what is the effect that this is having on the human brain. Because it certainly didn't evolve to take in all these messages. I don't know how old is from the first human, is it 150,000 years, longer, 1 million years? So it's only in the last 50 that we've had this constant, every single day, all day, giving us these messages, ideas, trying to sell us something. What's the effect?
It's a good question. How has it influenced the way that our brain has been evolving? Yeah, because like you said, it's a lot of it is subliminal. A lot of it is we're not conscious of it because it happens so much. So even if you're not clicking on the thing to go get the stuff, some people do, but the brain filters out so much. First of all, the brain has to work overtime because our brains are developed to filter out what is not necessary and to just kind of filter out the things so that we can get by on a day-to-day basis. So we can get so Ade can go from here to the bathroom. If Ade is just thinking, taking in all of the information, every single bit of information, then it's going to get in the way. It's just going to be overload and too much on the nervous system. So it's, I would think, and I'm no neuroscientist, but I would think on some level, on a brain level, it's making our brains work a lot harder than they were maybe designed to. And maybe that has changed the function of the brain as well. Because now with cell phones, there's whereas before you'd have to go out in the world and see these things, or when you would sit down and watch TV. But now when a cell phone is right in front of us all day, now you have information almost like 24 hours, like tons of this information. And like you said, these ad people and the marketing people, they're basically trying to manipulate. They lie to you. They know human psychology. As we talked about the other day, they're pretty slick, you know, like they're not different than you and I. You know, they have, some of them are sitting down meditating for hours, like doing their meditations and, you know, so-called spiritual and stuff, and so they even incorporate that into some of the ads. You know, you have these people um, like sitting down these group meetings at Google, you know, and they're smart people, you know, they're intelligent and they know and I think they somehow have bypassed the idea of whether this is overall, you know, good for people, because when they use things like, okay, we're going to talk about Native American culture because that's in right now, you know, whereas the truth, what we're starting to see more truth and truth about the history, but the corporations had co-opted that and now infuse it into the ad and marketing, and they hire the young sort of hip people that are quote unquote progressive, but now they're using it to sell and to, you know, to buy people, and then it kind of loses the the power. I don't know if power that is the right word, but the meaningfulness of the culture, you know, that they are marketing basically, and they do that with a lot of different areas, with the LTGB community, with you know, race, with weight, different things. The corporations have co-opted that and used that as a marketing strategy, and it's really interesting, you know, and we're getting bombarded. Um, so at a time where I think we really need to take a step back, especially as you were talking about in the winter months, to rest, to it's a time of, and this judging by nature, when I go out in nature, you know, specifically here in the north, um, things are dying, you know, it's so it's a time um, for dying, for loss, for, and not in a negative way, but for even grieving, for resting, um, and for what is the word, for introspection. And but we are in this restful moment, we are running, we are getting those last minute Christmas gifts, we are you know, the lights from the Christmas trees, as you had mentioned in that conversation that we had a few days ago. We're being bombarded with lights and blue, red, green, and the stores and everything else, you know. So I'm sure it has an effect on our brain and our overall well-being as a collective.
And like you said, so the trees, the leaves have fallen off the trees, and the leaves have died after their cycle. But the leaves go into the ground and for nutrients for the soil.
Yeah.
So if we look at us as if like, so we've allowed lots of things to die, fall away, and they become nutrients then for our body if we allow them to be.
Mm.
But here, especially here, as soon as the leaves fall, they're swept up and put away somewhere.
Yeah.
And maybe it's time to let those leaves, metaphorically in the human, fall and sit for a while.
Mm.
So the body can be renourished. And also, in regards to all this advertising and marketing and so on, it's always the same message, really. It's that you're not enough. So you
Exactly.
need to
Yeah.
get your teeth whiter. Your car needs to be better and faster. You need to buy this thing, buy this new microwave, buy this new Hoover, get this extra special, brand new, created for Ade cup of coffee. It's always these new clothes, this new designer, and it always is. What you are is not enough, and you need things to complete you.
Yeah.
Things. So that keeps us constantly on this chase, because intrinsically inside us, I think there's something that knows that there is no thing that can complete us.
No.
We are complete already, and the striving for outside of things keeps you on that circle. Or I think it Bill Hicks said, on the circle jerk on the treadmill, keeps you going, because it doesn't matter how many TVs and cars and so on. I guess it will never be enough.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so we create these special days. But what if we looked at it a different way? And there's not one day more special than another, and every day is an Earth Day. So we see the extraordinariness in every day, as we see in our lives that extraordinary things can happen on July the 5th. Also, they can happen on May the 27th. Also, they can happen on April the 14th.
Yeah.
September the 26th. October the 19th. They're all Earth days. We don't have to wait for one particular day. We don't have to wait for this special, so-called special occasion to wear the clothes that we've been saving up for the great occasion, which are sitting in our wardrobe, which we never wear because we're waiting for the day to wear them.
Yeah.
Why not make this day today? Make this day so that way you're in the here and now. Rather than making one day particularly special, just recognize the specialness in every day. And it can be said that, and an argument to that may be, well, if you make every day special, then there's no special days. But if we look at it a different way, yes, but they're all extraordinary days then.
Yeah.
Because in this, we have limited time in this spaceship called the human body. The infinite, but it's in the vehicle we call the mind body. It has an infinite time. And when you factor in that there is a quarter of your life is sleep, and there's sometimes you're going to be unwell and unable to do things. If we came from that perspective, we will see the extraordinariness and the possibilities that can happen while we're driving these vehicles. And then we see that these vehicles called the human body are then extraordinary in itself. What they allow us to do, we come into this body, consciousness expressing itself in the human body, and wow, it can see. Wow, there's awareness of hearing, awareness of touching, tasting, smelling. Wow, there's an opportunity to know something other than itself.
Yeah.
Because in consciousness is one, isn't it? But we can experience in these physical mind bodies something other than us. So if we come from the knowing to just the oneness, and then express, but through these mind body vehicles, we can see another, that another is us.
Yeah.
That tree, that blade of grass, Johnny from down the road, whoever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and then that brings a vibrancy to then every single moment.
Yeah.
And every single moment is an Earth Day.
Mm.
Tomorrow is an Earth Day. What we call December the 31st, as the Earth has made its way around the sun, and we called it a year, is an Earth Day. But so is January the 3rd and 4th.
Yeah.
And the Earth goes around the sun, and the moon goes around the Earth, and we have the other 9 planets in our solar systems, and there are vast other solar systems in this universe, in this galaxy, in the cosmic cloud, billions and trillions.
Yeah.
And in this space, we have an opportunity to experience Earth.
Mm.
And when you start to think of it in that way, then it's quite extraordinary, isn't it? Wow, I'm in this human body.
Yeah.
How can we play? And we talked about that, didn't we? The art of play.
Mm. Play is very important. Yeah.
Because we began the Coffee Diaries with a play.
Mm-hmm.
The thinking about how can we play, what can we do, and our discussions during the week lead us into a topic that we don't know we're going to discuss. And even when we discuss a topic, we go off on different avenues anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just like when the 5-year-old is playing with Lego. So he puts a Lego one on the other, and at the beginning, it's going to be a building. Then it turns into a car. Then it makes itself into a skyscraper. Then the child pushes it over, and then makes something else of it. It's not set and fixed into it's going to be this.
Yeah.
So I think it said in the book. I think it's the book called Sophie's World, which I read a long time ago. That's what makes Lego one of the best toys.
Yeah, it is. It's great. Both my kids love playing with Lego.
And from Lego, you're learning about you can also bring into different ways of teaching. You can talk about cells, atoms. Mm-hmm. You can talk about the stars. You can talk about the universe. You can talk about mathematics. You can talk about chemistry and physics.
Yeah.
You can use and talk about all these things just by playing with a block of Lego. And maybe when we go out to see things as, we're creating them as they are. Mm-hmm. And to have that playfulness. And I think we've spoken about it before, not going back to the child mind. Because all we ever have is the child mind.
Yeah.
But once we put on the suit and tie, or as my friend calls it, the suit and noose, once we put that on, we forget a lot of these things.
Yeah, we start pretending, and kids start it pretty early. They play a game called House, and they pretend to be the dad or the mom. And I used to play it as a kid all the time. And yeah, and you would act very serious, and then you look we somehow begin to take those roles very seriously. And one time I was taking the train in Manhattan, and I looked at everyone, and I just was able to see they all look like kids. They all look like kids wearing adult personalities, like just like really taking the role too seriously. So the childlike mind, I wonder what I would describe it as is, now I'm going to put labels, which don't really do it justice, but curiosity, wonder, playfulness. When they don't really get certain questions. Like, I'm always in the habit of asking my kids, and this is just my thing. It's just, "Oh, how are you doing today?" And they usually don't answer. I'll have to ask them, "How are you?" And I could tell it's just not like, it doesn't make sense. Like, how am I? What does that? How am I? But you ask somebody in the street, "How are you doing?" And they know to say, "Oh, I'm okay. I'm doing great. I'm doing." So how are you doing? The kids don't know. They're playing with Legos. So they're like, I'm playing with Legos. So, it doesn't register. And whenever whenever I ask them that, I realize the absurdity of the question, as well as this conditioning from me to ask them that question, because I don't know what the hell else to do with myself. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Like, how do I? Maybe I should just start playing with them, But I am like, it's like another distraction, another sort of strange things that maybe we do to avoid life, to feel, I don't know, these strange ways that we relate to each other, that we sort of connect or feel a part of something, and maybe it would work with someone at the supermarket or someone somewhere else, but with the kids who are not in that condition, and it doesn't work, because they're not, and they'll learn they'll become socialized and everything, and then they will say, "Oh, I'm doing okay," and, or say whatever, and maybe they'll rebel towards it at a certain age, which is very natural. Um, and then we'll kind of stomp out that rebellion and force them into this, like the movie The Dead Poet Society, force them into being socialized in this way, and ignoring their innocence and their soul, and to prepare them, to get them ripe and open to fit into society, and so that advertisers can have a target that's open enough to keep this thing, like in the Reagan era, there was this economist, or it was before Reagan, actually. It was after the Depression. The economist, one of the lead economists, said, what we need to, the solution, as we were coming out of the Depression, is what we need to do from here on out is the program is consume and throw away. So buy and throw away. So we're the consume and throw away generations. So that's what we're doing. We're buying and buying and buying and throwing away. Nobody bothered to really think that through, of what that is going to happen to the human species, and to the planet. Um, so interesting.
Yeah, and the fact that, and you said something there. You said So they get to 15, 16 and they rebel. But we adults hammer them back into shape, into the square form. Because obviously then it's not natural for them, is it, to fit into these boxes. So they have to get hammered and chiseled back in. And it's done through fear, threats, isn't it?
Exactly.
If you don't do what you're told, you're not going to pass your school exams, you won't get this job, you won't get the loan. And I think also when you give students loans, again, that's the hammer, saying you have to obey the societal conditions that we have created, because now we have a noose around your neck, which is called a debt.
Yeah.
And you'll have to play by the rules to pay us back. So even if you want to rebel, you have this weight that we've placed on their shoulders, and they're 19, 20, 21, and they may have 90,000. I know in America it's even more, hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
In debt. So what are we saying? That the only way to get people in line is to use fear and the hammer against them. And we say it so trivially, but that's normal. It seems to be that's normal how our society runs.
Yeah.
We accept it. And we talk about the economy. Frankly, I don't even know what the economy is. What is the economy? What is it? In the nations who lived in the rainforest or wherever, was there an economy then? Obviously, there wasn't one like there is now.
No.
So, would they even have known of the word economy? Because it seems like if you say, and let's think of this, economy, to economize, I think does it mean to save, to economize, to value what you have? But it seems to be that they've twisted the word economy into spend and buy.
Yeah.
It's just a thought that I have. So it seems to be it's even going against what it is. And I don't know how many people out there, if they said, what is the economy, would even know how to answer that question.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
we're preparing humans in this human form to spend the majority of their lives serving a thing which we don't even understand what it means. And to spend much of our life surfacing the lifestyle of corporations and people who we don't even know.
Yeah.
Not going without sleep. I think that's probably why there's so much, legal. I'm talking about the legal drugs here to keep you going. Maybe it's part of just to keep functioning. It's required.
Yeah.
In this world that has been created.
Yeah.
So, is it possible for us to sit back and look in a world that's designed not to give you the opportunity to sit back and look? So the very thought process of it's time to sit back is also at the same time delinking from the system itself.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, what they don't want. You're going against the grain then. And many times it's not even just the major corporations and businesses that are doing it. It could be your own family or friends who you might have to step back from just to give yourself a breath, because you're going a different way now.
Yeah.
first people to come at you will be the closest people to you. Oh, get back in line, do what we're doing. Come on, it's the way it's always been.
Yeah.
It's traditional. Come on, why are you being so strange?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's especially family members. I've had those experiences myself with family members, and also I see when I do that with my kids. Because when it's not even that they're thinking outside of the box. They're not in the box, not completely. The schools are putting them in the box, and I'm sure I put them in the box, and so they're a little bit in the box, but they're out of the box as well. And yeah, I do find myself it's coming from my own fears, my own, oh no, we don't do that. It could be simple things like eat in a certain way or making a mess, you know like for me, like making a like no you oh my gosh, you made a mess, and it's like that's my interpretation. Is it really a mess? I could say, oh wow, that looks really interesting. That's a of course you can clean it up after, but we don't have to treat it in the sort of traditional or programmed ways that we treat things. You have to do things in a certain way, and it takes a lot of courage to step out of that, to step away from that, which I've been doing personally in my life, questioning a lot of things and a lot of the assumptions, and a part of it is being able to step away from the distractions and be with myself, and and question where, okay, everyone is everyone is saying that I should be feeling afraid right now. I mean, that's the messaging that I'm getting from social media, that I'm getting from the media. Everyone is saying that I should be thinking this way about this subject. But the conflict is I don't. It really doesn't. Like, I don't. And so if I'm talking to someone and they bring up the sort of in vogue response, the question, so what do you think about this topic? And as a way, and I can tell they're just saying it because it's like you put the program in the computer, and again, I'm the computer as well, so I'm not like I'm not trying to judge or anything. I'm just trying to make a point. But when you put the program in the computer and you turn the computer on, that program is going to run until you change up the program, or until, like in the Matrix, there's a little glitch, or you take the red pill and step outside of the program. So I notice the sort of catchphrases that people use nowadays, and they use them with me. And I've never been a catchphrase type of person. Even since I was a kid, it just never made sense to me. And I've always, when people would ask me things or say certain things, I'd always feel self-conscious in my response, because I would use a catchphrase, and I would always think, oh, I'm such a insecure person, or why am I not so confident? And the issue I'm starting to see was because I realized on a gut level how it was not genuine, how it was a catchphrase, and my gut knew that I'm lying. So essentially, I am lying. I'm being a fraud, and I don't. And so the fear of being found out that I've carried around all of my life was because I was afraid but you were doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, like I forget who says, I think it's Ram Dass or someone says that okay, I'll agree to be this character, this personality, and you agree to be that, and we'll agree to do this together and be in, this, just basically be a fake, be a fraud, you know. My ex used to call me a fraud all the time. I used to get so upset, but, and I don't know what the intentions there were, but I was a fraud. I am a fraud. I'm a fraud if I'm going outside and interacting with other people. Chances are, maybe a good portion of my life, I'm a fraud. So I'm a fraud. I'm making things up. I'm not. It's not really coming from. If someone asks, if someone were to ask me, "Well, how you doing?" Like, my honest answer would really be, I have no idea. And that's such a ridiculous question. Why are we wasting time with this? In fact, I don't even really want to talk about this stuff right now. Like, it doesn't interest me at all. So, like, can we talk about, like, look at what's going on in the world, and let's talk about something else, something meaningful, or let's just sing or do something. If I were to be honest, I would say something like that. But I say the same things over. Stay safe out there. Just are you prepared, or or whatever is the. And I'm not to say that to downplay anything or people that are feeling concerned or have health issues or anything like that. That's not the thing. It's more of realizing how this sort of knee-jerk reaction, and it's relevant. It's very important because we knee-jerk reaction ourselves into destroying ourselves and the planet. We just kind of, I think you said it, we just sort of um have resigned ourselves to be okay with listening to politicians who are full of shit, and know that they're lying because we're lying half the time. And like, these are our leaders. These are the people that are in control of the country, and then we have one of their important ones stand up, talk about the economy, and we're saying, okay, if we do this, this, and this, we'll get back on track. And we get this false sense of comfort, which really is just like giving a shot of heroin or opium to the masses, like injecting it right into your vein and saying, because that they're doing the same thing. Like, we know that Native Americans said it so long ago, that what you're doing is not going to work, and you're going to find out it's not going to work. You can keep putting a Band-Aid over it for as many years as you want, but Mother Nature is going to fight back. It's just not going to work. If you see that the results, and we're trying to decorate shit with a pretty bowl and nice wrapping, it's still going to smell, and you're still going to have shit. But we're looking at shit and saying, wow, there's, yeah, the Dow Jones is up, and this number is up, and Wall Street, the economy's doing great right now. Meanwhile, we're in trillions of dollars of debt here in the West.
It's amazing sometimes, because if you think, you would want the wisest, the most compassionate, the most genuinely loving people to be part of what we call politics.
Yeah.
We would want those humans who just the sheer joy of life exudes from their very presence.
Yeah. Yeah.
How for them, the water is just so. It's us. We to look after it. We be them. It's just our very being.
Yeah.
But the guys up there seem to be have nothing, nothing to do with that.
No.
And they ask the questions and they never answer them. And they're very skilled. And, I think we should have this right now. So whenever we watch the news, okay, so firstly, before you turn it on, there's a few things you've got to just put into the psyche. Cleanse the third eye and just look into the side. Okay, so before I turn on the news, there's a few things that I've got to remember. It's made by, there's a producer, there's a director, there's a cameraman, probably loads of producers.
Yeah.
And they've sculpted this piece of news to get an impact from the viewer. Okay. I still can't turn the TV set on yet, though. It's another thing I've got to remember, that the guy reading it has in front of him a teleprompter.
Yeah.
With the words that have been written down. And these words have been written down by maybe quite a few people, and they've gone through it to get it exactly to get the biggest impact. But don't turn on the TV set yet. We've got to remember, in his ear, there's an earphone in his ear where he's being spoken to by the director. Don't turn on the TV set yet. We're still not ready. His suit and tie have been especially chosen for this particular evening for the show. But don't turn it on yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. His words and phrasing and what they show you from clips have been edited by a guy who's called an editor to shape the view that they want you to have.
Yeah.
But don't turn it on yet. In that studio around them are hundreds of people who are getting their sources of information from a very few, very tiny amount of news agencies. Now let's turn on the TV set. Let's watch it. We can see his eyes going to the teleprompter. We see him going, oh, he just heard something in his ear. We're hearing all this. We're hearing the script.
Yeah.
We're hearing this script. We're hearing this story. We're hearing this agenda. I'm not saying that every single thing on there, it probably is being, every single thing probably is being focused to show a certain viewpoint. But let's turn it on knowing this. Let's see it for ourselves, because if friends spoke to us the way newscasters and politicians spoke to us, they wouldn't be our friends for very long.
No.
We will say, you know what, after you've lied once or twice, we're not friends anymore. But we accept, and they call it, twisting the story.
Yeah.
Or another good word is shaping the narrative. That's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah, shaping the narrative.
Shaping the narrative to suit a particular agenda. And I think before we even turn the TV set on, just to be aware of these things.
Yeah.
Editors, producers, directors, marketing, advertising people, someone who's worked on their dress and their clothes, all of this stuff is going on.
Yeah.
So let's squidgy the third eye and just, and then sit back and just breathe a bit and to let it just, and see it for what it is.
Yeah.
And have you ever heard anyone in what Bill Hicks called politics, where Bill Hicks says, poly meaning many, ticks meaning blood-sucking animals. That's the comedian Bill Hicks. Have you heard any of them mention compassion? Just a word. Empathy. Have you heard them mention love? And I can't recall in my time ever hearing that. But the most important thing is you love your children. So isn't that the prime? Shouldn't that be just the prime thing that they're talking about?
Mm.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
What else could come in front of that for you? Yet we never hear that spoken of. But if it's the most important thing, why is it not spoken of?
Mm.
And we know it's the most important thing because we would do anything for these people.
Yeah.
Oh, so they might say, oh, on today's newscast, today we're going to talk about how to express love and compassion to all of humanity.
Mm.
That's the news at 10.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard that?
No.
But in a sane world, wouldn't that not be, I'm just thinking out loud here, wouldn't that be one of the most important stories?
Mm.
And today there was all the political parties got together and they talked about how they can be more loving and compassionate to the rest of mankind and all of human. Wouldn't that be a great government meeting?
Mm.
Have you heard that?
No. And news is it seems to live in the past. It's not really, we talked a little bit the other day about manifestation and creating something beautiful in a world that's self-sustaining, that is that the order of the day is compassion, cooperation, love, empathy, and rather than fear, and the news seems to be rehashing a narrative. If you listen to the news, there's certain key phrases and certain themes that is just played over and over and over. Blame, fear, cynicism. There's a lot of cynicism, sarcasm. There's a lot, and every now and then they'll show a cat being saved in a tree. Let's give them the cat. It's a very cute story. Let's put that in there at the end. And then they play it over and over. So there's an addictive quality. Many people that are watching the news, they have it just playing in the background because we've become so accustomed of this sort of, it gets you in this sort of survival mode, which appeals to the ego. Like, beware of what's going to happen. And they do it they catch you with the way the titles come up. Ding, 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 breaking news. Today at war, in the voice. Today at 7:00, there's blah, 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 blah. Get ready. And, very serious and, very not relaxed, not like, how's everyone doing today? Just kind of, why don't, for today, for the news, the news could be like, yeah, there's this guy in, I don't know, there's this guy in Brooklyn. He cleans windows for a living. He's just really chilled and laid back, and really is about that. It's not about what it's not about what you do. You know, that doesn't determine your value or your self-worth, but he just enjoys like meeting people and cleaning the windows and learning about other people, and you know, and he doesn't buy much. You know, he doesn't need to spend so much money or anything, and yeah, so that's the news for today. And yeah, so we can. It's all about narrative, and the news promotes a narrative that promotes fear, that appeals to the ego, that has this addictive quality that gets us to keep turning on to see if anything happened. You know, shooting at 5 o'clock, 3 people shot today. Oh my gosh, did you hear the news today? 3 people were shot. And we always seem very surprised when that happens, but that that happens all the time. You know, it happens all the time. And I wonder, and it's the news doesn't really talk about the backstory of why things like that are happening. It's not saying, hey, there's these shootings because look at the damn world that we've created because of these damn corporations and because of what we humans are putting our focus on. Like the news is, let's get together and change things because, you know, we're just as responsible for these shootings as the young person or the young couple of people that were involved in this gang war or whatever happened. You know, who are they learning from? You know, they don't talk about the gangs, the United States of America gang that is going around bombing other countries and doing these sort of things. And you know, yeah, so they're the narrative. See, we have the power to change the narrative, but I think first, like in George Orwell's 1984, we first need to know the truth. Like we can't have blinders on. Like you said, we need to see that there's the director, the writer, and news media sensation. They use sensationalism to get ratings, and they compete with other news news companies. So they use a narrative, but we have the power to change the narrative. And first we become aware, and this is what we're doing here, that's just naturally coming up in the podcast. So I think, you know, if someone isn't aware of what Ron just talked about before turning on the news, experiment before you turn on the news. Do that little. That could be in practice, and you could do it with so many things. Like, I think part of it is beginning to view things from a neutral stance and question these knee-jerk reactions. As James Baldwin would always say, you know, learn to think for yourself, question things, you know, question, why do I feel this way? You know, what is the basis of this belief? If you think it through and you still hold that belief, then that's fine. But even think through wherever you get wherever you get these confirmations from to back up your ideas and perspectives, we can question those, you know. And we have something called confirmation bias. So if there's something that we believe in, we look for things to confirm that. So one thing that could be helpful is looking at the opposite point of view as well. In looking at I like to peel the onion back all the way to the root of everything. And this brings us back to what we talked about the other day, coming back and living from this natural way of being, realizing that we've complicated the hell out of life. We've made things so complicated. I was in nature the other day and I was just enjoying learning from geese. They were teaching me. So I was sitting, watching the geese, watching how graceful they were, and noticing when I was labeling them, noticing when I was trying to categorize them and put them in a box. And then I stopped doing that and realized I don't know what geese are. Like, I can't listen to geese if I'm busy defining geese and defining the experience that I'm having. If I'm busy defining an experience, then that makes a presumption. I'm presuming that I know. And so there's no reason to even entertain this idea of having an experience because I'm just going from this program, that I know, and this is my own biases at play. And from that place, I can't learn anything, and so if we start off with, I don't know what geese are, and just wait, and just see like what the geese are trying to tell me. And if I'm lucky, maybe they will reveal themselves in some way. Because geese are the same as consciousness. It's not anything different. So maybe consciousness will reveal itself. And then a thought came that if humans were more like geese, then we'd be okay. And so the thought was, aha, geese have given me an answer. And then I picked up my iPhone and wrote it down. And I looked down and I thought, oh, maybe I should post this on social media because this will sound very clever. And maybe people will think, wow, Ade is very wise. And yeah, this is a brilliant one. Or maybe they won't. Like, should I waste posting it? I went through all this stuff and then I looked up and the geese have moved on. And I thought, I missed the lesson. I missed the lesson.
So, in your awareness, in that stillness, in that moment, you saw the geese, but at the same time, the geese are giving you a lesson on the stillness is there, but there's movement at the same time.
Exactly.
The fact that you looked away for that momentary time, you came out of your stillness and wasn't aware of the moving.
Mm.
So maybe that's so. The whole story, what you just said, is the lesson then.
Yeah.
Not the first or initial one of, oh, we can learn from the geese. Maybe it was the whole arc of it, which is the story. And you said that, sometimes we see things and we don't see the bigger picture. So TV and news and many history class in school never give you the full backstory.
Yeah.
The backstory to your interview with the geese wasn't the first initial, oh yeah, let's be more like the geese. It was what can happen maybe if the mind gets hold of it, what it can do. Then it brings in Facebook and it brings in the messaging and it brings in, oh, should I really post this? All of that was part of the story.
Yeah.
And that was the extraordinary lesson.
Yeah. And it's happening all the time. Yeah.
And so we spoke about the geese and also what you said and the labeling had dropped. So the there was no, it didn't seem to be a fighting that you are connected. The separateness fell away, and connection was automatic.
Yeah.
You didn't have to try to be connected, did you? You were there, and you noticed them. The separation fell. So maybe it's seeing the separation brings about the connection.
Yeah.
Or the knowing of the connection. You said before, seeing the fraudulent behavior is maybe an important step to see it. And the very seeing of it allows it to dissolve.
Yeah.
Maybe it's an extraordinary breakthrough to see the fraudulent behavior. To when, as you said, someone comes up to you and says, "How are you doing?" How easy it is to go into the script. "Oh, I'm doing okay. I'm fine. I'm doing very well. Johnny's got a new school. I've got a new piano." Okay, that's the script. It feels something strange inside of us. You know what the reality is? Maybe the conversation will go, I'm sure I'm discovering my purpose in this life. I had an extraordinary dream the other day. Can we manifest by, how quickly can we manifest by focusing our minds? What an extraordinary tool the mind is. Maybe that'll be the conversation in the future, not, "Oh, yeah, I'm okay."
Yeah.
And a lot of times, have you ever said to somebody, asked somebody, "How are you?" And they said they're okay, and you know that they're not okay.
Yeah.
And you know they're not okay. They know they're not okay, but we continue the conversation as if they're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got these two characters playing this game.
Yeah.
Of pretending things are okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a cause of a lot of the depression and anxiety, because we're not really saying what we're feeling. And how long can you keep that going for without it burdening us? How long can we act?
Yeah.
Before it becomes too much. And maybe the crash happens, and the crash is not a breakdown, maybe it's a breakthrough. But in many cases, when the crash happened, then they're hospitalized and given drugs to get them back to where they were originally.
Yes. I had an experience like that yesterday in a phone call. I won't go into detail out of respect for the person, but it, we had a I had a little bit of an argument, which turned into really hearing each other out and being open, which turned into getting to know each other in a deeper way, which we hadn't done in very little times. We have done that, and I noticed that when that was happening, there was that fear came up to try to I need to try to get things back into the get back into the roles, the safe roles that we were playing, because there's this feeling of punishment, or else I'm going to be punished. Punishment is one of those other things that were put down into society. And so it's like strategically placed there that you be punished. Follow these rules, or you're going to be punished. And then as a society, we have this punish and reward system. in certain religions, we have your punishment is hell, your reward is heaven. That's, you know, choose which one do you want. Which one do you want? And you know, and then if you sin, you know, which we all have, once they kind of go down the list, then it's like, oh man, even if you think some of the things, I'm like, what if I think it? Oh my gosh. I was a kid, I heard these things. I'm filled with, you know, I went around thinking that I'm going to get punished for everything I'm doing. And I don't think we realize how much of that sinks into who we are, our, you know, our being, you know, who we are as a person. So we play these games because part of it is like we're both saying to each other, we're being watched. You say your role, we'll both be good. We'll say what we're supposed to be. We won't be punished. We'll be okay. Everything will be all right. And it doesn't work, you know, and especially in relationships, intimate relationships between man and woman, or whoever, man and man, or, you know, woman and woman, but intimate relationships, when your significant other is angry and you say, how are you? How you doing? I'm fine. And you know that they're not fine because you did something to upset them. And you say, you sure? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine. And then you may use the tactic of, okay, they say they're fine. I'll just pretend that nothing happened. Okay, you want some, you know, what's going on today? You want, and then they'll start playing that game, and they'll know that they're not fine, but you're playing this game, and they get more angry, and then you start being passive aggressive. They start being passive aggressive with you, and then you start being more sarcastic, and then being passive because you ask them and they're not, you know, all this stuff goes on, and then it blows up, you know, it blows up, and you end up exploding and yelling at each other, and then maybe something could come out of that because there's, at least at that moment, truth has come up. And if one person is willing to be a little bit open, you know, not go totally defensive, because you could both go into defenses, and then maybe something could come out of that. Maybe something, you could find out what's really going on. Yeah, so it's a I don't know, like going back to the holidays, because Christmas is tomorrow, and you know, I have kind of neutral feelings about Christmas. I feel in a lot of ways it doesn't make sense. I'm not like a big Christmas person. I do it to make other people feel comfortable. I don't want my kids to feel left out or anything like that. And they've already been sort of brainwashed in school, because that's all they've been talking about is Christmas, 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 and Santa Claus. And I'm like, okay. But yeah, I think as a group, you know, we do need to start having discussions and thinking about, if we're going to do these holidays, is there a way that we can do them where we're not stressing ourselves needlessly? You know, we're not adding more plastics and garbage, and the amount of boxes with Amazon, and you know, now everybody's using Amazon nowadays, and we're wrapping in this fancy paper that we're going to throw away right at. So the paper is just there to wrap and throw away, and we just conveniently ignore it. Like, can we at least be conscious about what we're doing? I think that's the thing. Can we be conscious of how it's impacting the environment? If we're going to do it, let's do it consciously. how it's impacting like if you decide, okay, I don't care about trees, then say it and do it, and say, okay, I know it's hurted. I know that we're destroying these trees. Go out in nature and spend time with the trees, and then do it. And at least then you begin to feel like what you're doing. And then you have more of a chance to make different decisions, because there's other ways to do things. There's other ways to celebrate. I'm not saying to get rid of the holidays completely. Some people enjoy them, but we can change the narrative. We can become conscious. We can make them different. The Native Americans said that. They said, they said, I'm not saying get rid of Thanksgiving. I've heard natives being interviewed about this. They're just saying, if you're going to do it, know the truth of the history and do it in a different way. If you're going to give gratitude and appreciation, change it. Just don't unconsciously go and like do it in this way. Honor natives, talk about what happened, talk about where this tradition came from,
Yeah, and we've spoken of the word society, and like society is out there. Society is you and me.
Yeah.
So where do we start? We start here.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it in a different way, yes, we decide, I'm not buying. I know I'm gonna feel the kind of the pull to get something, but this year I'm not buying anything. I'm definitely not gonna wrap anything. But what you may do, you may carve something out of a piece of wood because you've learned how to do some carpentry.
Yeah.
You've, rather than bought a card, which is going to be thrown away, you've written a letter or something really meaningful. You're going to recite a poem. That's going to be your present. You spent time in it. It's come from you. You're going to recite a poem. You're going to spend time reflecting and talking. You're going to ask someone, a great present is, what's your passion? Can I help you see it through?
Yeah.
That's a great present, I would have thought, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
What's your passion? How can we help see it through? So we can talk about society, this society, that, but again, we create society, and it comes from I and I.
Yeah.
Our friend said this year, she said more people this year have said they're not buying any new clothes, and she's a dressmaker. So she fixes clothes, no new clothes more than any other time in her life.
Yeah.
So let's fix and let's see our friends and children and let them see us doing it. So let's create a new way rather than fight against the old way. Let's go this new way. So when somebody goes to you next, Ade, how are you doing? You might say, do you know what? An infinite consciousness expressing itself in this human body. Last night I did some astral traveling around the planet Venus, and I came back. It could be that.
Yeah. And say, how are you? I'm okay. Oh, just okay. Oh, okay. And speaking of doing something, before I forget, doing something different as gifts for the holiday. If you're gonna give gifts, and you can support small businesses. So I'm not saying get rid of, like, we need things. We need we need clothes. We enjoy since ancient times, jewelry and things like that. And what I like is I have this bracelet. See? And it's this is actually my favorite bracelet, and it is from a Black-owned business woman. She makes this handmade, and she like I got this years ago, and she's been continuing to make bracelets, and they just get better and better. Her business is Ultra Violet Rain, and I put a link on this Facebook, and I'll do it also on YouTube. And she's a friend of mine. Again, it's I wanted to mention this and support because, yeah, get it from your friends. You don't have to support these big corporations, and especially people of color, because we need to support more of us to have our businesses and finding ways to be live self-sustaining and not rely on these corporations. And so if you go to her website, ultravioletrain.com, she has a bunch of merchandise that she makes herself. She's a true artist, and she works really hard. And her name is Kareshe. Am I saying it correct, Ron?
Can I look and see what you wrote down?
Yeah. I just want to make sure because names are important.
Oh, so it's here. It's here, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on the text.
Karashe Onaki Soulfire.
Yeah.
Onanake Soulfire.
Karashe. I hope I'm not messing that up, Karashe. So yeah, get her merchandise. I wear it all the time. And stones are good, I have them around our home, and I try to wear different stones, and like I have this thing and different things. So I just wanted to put that little plug there, as we talked about, that we want to do on our podcast is, it's not about this is bigger than Ron and I. This is part of us building community and lifting up, small businesses and people that are, we want to promote these things because it's part of building community and manifesting the type of world that we want, and that we envision. And so I just want to mention that.
Yeah. Ade, the important thing there is that we're here to learn.
Yeah.
And there's so much to learn. So with this platform, the people that we've had the opportunity to speak to already has opened our minds.
Yeah.
We've heard some things. We've talked with people that have already expanded our scope of the possibility.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity to have long-form discussions and to learn things from, let's learn from communities that we don't really hear from.
Mm-hmm.
And let's put some of what we're saying into practice. Let's take it out of the saying we talk about, take it out of the meditation hall, and let's take it into our everyday life,
Yeah.
If we're going to eat or better, maybe it's start learning how to farm.
Yeah, very important.
What's it like to walk? We can talk about connection with the trees, but what's it like for us to walk barefoot in the forest?
Mm-hmm.
We said the other day, we can spend years without, unless we go to the beach, of course, without our feet touching the earth.
Yeah.
Let's, and you spoke about this as well, that time you said you were, I think, on the tube and you saw someone who was in presence and how that affects us.
Mm.
So if we're in presence on the tube, it resonates.
Yeah.
That's the meditation. So let's take it to the tube. Let's do the supermarket meditations. Let's support our friends doing their own creative artistry. Let's go out into the forest. Let's learn about these things. Let's be connected to what we're breathing, what we're eating, what we're saying. Let there be awareness of the fraudulent, of the programmed. Let's be aware of this matrix.
Yeah.
And the awareness of it is seeing it would allow the force to dissolve. What I say? I think I heard from one teacher say the ego cannot survive in the fires of awareness. And I can't remember who said that. So if you please to message, I can't remember who said that. I think it was so let's see it in ourselves. Let's go out there and take these coffee diaries into anybody who's watching it. If you have any ideas, people be interested to come on and speak to. Different countries around the world.
Yeah.
Be wonderful, because I think what this has offered us opportunity is you're in New York, I'm in London, but this hasn't stopped our flow of communication at all.
Yeah.
This New York and London is an idea. We've gate crashed that, gone through into the party, gone, wow, where's the line? Yeah. The line is, where is the line? You've seen that the line wasn't real, and we're talking here right now in real time, creating and learning about things. So if we see the illusion of those boundaries, then automatically we see the illusion of all the other boundaries. So let's step off the ledge.
Yeah, that's the invitation to step off of the ledge. And wow, yeah, that's very powerful what you said. It's
because that keeps from there, we're always learning up.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple statement, but it's so powerful. I'm still learning. How are you? I'm still learning. Maybe that's and I got that from the teacher, Neely Fuller, who always answers, I'm still learning, and trying to incorporate that. So how are you, Ron? I'm still learning.
I'm still learning.
Yeah. And the question I get after that often is, what are you learning about? Which is a million different things. The conversation can go off into different things. But you allow that, by that response, an openness to inquire.
I'm still learning.
I'm still learning.
Hey, that's a great response to anything. Why don't you do that? Why'd you do that? I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Yeah. Yeah, it is it's so open, and yeah, we never stop learning. There's so much to learn, and I think like one of the things that Sila brought up is, he says, it's great us talking, but I like to see results. So, meaning getting out there and doing things. And we always talk about bringing the meditation out of the studio and into life. And it can be in small ways. So I like these podcasts, kind of, we have our conversations on the phone, and which lead up to every podcast. So this is kind of like the continuation of it's almost like our our phone call, but we're not, not on the phone, and kind of like check in with things taken from our experience and what we've been learning and what we've been talking about, and then bringing it here and sharing it to others. And the intention is to connect and to keep building, and bringing it into our lives, bringing it into the out to the world, doing small things. Doesn't have to be big things. Like, like Sila said, you don't have to have a farm or a whole bunch of land to grow things. If you have an apartment, you can just get a little, little pot and put a little seed there. Just that one seed. Just put one seed at a time. And I think that's what we're doing. So what kind of seeds are we planting? And we talked about the media. What kind of seeds are they planting in the consciousness of people? Are they seeds that are going to bear, tasty, sweet, nice fruit that is good for the collective? And the answer is, have they? I mean, the answer is obvious. No, nobody has said. I've never heard anybody say that. I've been watching news all day and every day, and it's really changed my life for the better. I feel great. Never. I've never in the history have heard that. So but they are planting seeds. And there's other people, politicians planting seeds, advertisers planting seeds, corporations planting seeds. Yes, in awareness, we can be aware and be neutral. But just remember, seeds are being planted. So we also have to plant our own seeds that are, for me, compassion, cooperation, living a simple life, being kind to nature, doing these things. And I have a long, I'll be forever learning and growing. And I talk about a lot of things that I still haven't done in my life, in which I'm working on, and we keep as many times as we may have good intentions of doing these things and fall and we don't do them, as you had said to me before, you may take one step backwards, but then you learn from it and you take two steps forward. So we just keep taking those steps, and it might not, the impact or the flowers, just like how the seasons change. You plant flowers, different species of the flowers. Some may bloom, may come up at a certain time, and then you have the roses that may come up on certain time, and the lavender that may come up on certain time, and you may plant them at different times, or so there's a time where things will come up, and we may not see the results right away, but maybe the next generation, they'll see the flowers come up, the beautiful flowers, and they'll see the fruit, and they'll be able to go out and enjoy it. And maybe they will maybe they'll even think about, wow, a few generations ago, these things were planted, and if we're lucky, they may be conscious of that someone planted this some generations ago, and they didn't know what was going to come of it. And maybe back then things were tough, but now we can enjoy this. If they were able to be conscious of that and hold that in reverence, then we've done our job. We've done a magnificent job. But even if they just have the fruit and they're not conscious of all that other stuff, then at least we've done something, So that's the hope.
Yeah. And so if anybody's watching and they've been planting seeds, please send us a message, about the seeds you've been planting, what you've been up to, And as Ade says, it can be the tiniest things, a smile, a gesture.
Yeah.
Go into your local store, creating that piece of art, reciting that poem, creating that song, starting your own business.
Yeah.
Because you know what? People are watching.
Yeah.
They're watching. And when it's done through authenticity, it resonates very powerfully and that inspires.
Yes.
So if you're out there and you're planting seeds, please tell us,
Yeah.
As Stila says, it can be in a small box on the windowsill.
Yeah.
It can be. And it doesn't matter where in the world you're from. Anywhere. If you know of some seeds that are being planted, let's create this community, this commune. Because through this medium, this commune is worldwide.
Yeah.
So can we go from we're expressing ourselves in this vehicle, which we call the human body, to becoming a universal body?
Yeah. It's so important, and even if what you do touches one person and it changes their life in the smallest way, and in their life it changes the way that they parent their kids, and then it changes, who how their kids develop and how they parent their kids, and how they treat nature, and so that one person. So it's not about quantity, so you have certain podcasts or videos on YouTube that have millions of views, but they're planting fear. A lot of them are just planting just this numbness, like maybe people falling and getting hurt, or whatever. And so, yes, they're affecting, they are reaching millions of people, but what are they? What kind of what are they harvesting? What are they? What kind of fruit is coming out of that? So we do little parts. So it's not about quantity. Like Ron and I, even though we have like over 10 million followers, it's we don't get caught up on the numbers or anything like that. Ron thinks we should promote it more, and I'm saying no. 10 millions, that's enough. We can cut off. We can cut off there. And in terms of planting a seed, as Sila said, you could do it in your apartment. He started off with a little one. He planted something within a tree, and now he has like a whole forest of ganja plants that has. If you ever seen it, it's really amazing, as well as the crops and stuff like that. Yeah. So I still want to visit him and film him in his farm one day. But so we are at the 2 hour mark.
Okay.
This has been great. This has been. I'm enjoying these conversations, and yeah, it's inspiring.
Yeah, and we got some interesting ideas for the next few shows. Interesting people to come on.
Yeah.
And so let's take on board what we've learned. Some amazing people. Your niece that was an extraordinary.
Oh yeah, my cousin Tanisha.
Yeah, your cousin. Yeah.
Yeah.
The insights of that show, extraordinary. Someone so young as well. Talking to Sila, playing the drums that came on.
Oh yeah. I want to have him back sometime.
And Danielle, yeah. So a lot of but there's so much to learn, and so many ideas that we have. So it's been a pleasure.
Yeah. And so thank you, folks. And I won't tell you to stay safe. I'll say jump off the ledge, enjoy, do something unfamiliar, test it out. Like Ron told me one day, well, try sitting under the table. So sit under your table and see how things look. Try it out. I've done those things before. Sit under the table, do something different, see what happens.
And Ade, how are you?
I am. I don't know. That's. I don't know how to answer that question.
I thought you were going to say I'm still learning.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm learning. I'm learning that I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question. Okay. The question should be when you meet someone is, "What are you?" That's a better question. What are you? And then you can even tell them, don't answer me. Think about it. Think about that. Let's let that question be there.
Okay. What about, okay, so we approach our best friend, George, on the street, and we say, George, how is the eye?
Oh, yeah. How is the eye? How is the eye? Yeah. And then we just walk away. You can't give them a chance to try to answer it. I have a friend who asked me a question. Every time she asked me the question, she said, "Don't answer it." Just let the question be there. It was so helpful. Yeah.
You know, the last thing. Sometimes, you know what? Sometimes the questions don't warrant don't need an answer.
No.
You asked a question to me the other day. I don't know what it was.
Why do we label things?
Yeah, but you knew the answer to the question.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was a question you were asking. You were putting it out there for yourself to look at.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe when you ask someone, how are you, you're really saying to yourself okay, so give yourself a moment to answer the question for yourself. And when that friend realizes you're pausing for a bit, maybe they will then go inside and ask the question for themselves. And then you and them will be in the middle of the street, breathing deeply. Chakras rising, and then you're gonna skip down the road, hand in hand, full of bliss, with tears of joy just pouring down your face. And they might say, "But why are you crying?" And they say, "Well, I was so moved by the question.
Yeah,
We decided to skip down the middle of the high street, singing some songs and reciting poems."
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you see another couple, and the other couple nudges the person, and they're angry, and the guy says, "What's wrong?" And says, "How come that never happens to us?" When you ask, how am I?
Okay, so so I think what's going to happen next is that somehow, of some way, well, one of us or maybe both of us, going to be skipping down the high road.
Yeah, or in the loony bin.
Just because we asked someone how they were, but we really meant it, so we join hands and skip down the middle of the high road.
Yeah.
And on the news that night will be newsflash: 2 people were seen skipping down the high road, and they were expressing pure joy. That
Yeah.
the tear, and the newscaster has tears of joy rolling down her cheeks.
That would be great. That'd be good news.
And she says, I'm resigning now. And she resigns on air
Yeah.
and says, I can't do this job anymore. And goes and opens a raw food at a vegan farm.
Yeah.
In Wisconsin, which she then turns into a meditation center and for yoga retreats. And from that on, she then meets someone in Kenya, and their two farms connect together, and they now service each other and give food and help people with nutrition and diet. Extraordinary.
Yeah. That gives a new meaning to how are you.
Okay.
All right, folks. Thank you for joining us today. And till next time.